we won't reach quorum.
Oh, no.
Okay.
But it is 2 o'clock.
All right.
Oh, here comes Kelly. I will let Kelly in. We've got one more coming in. You could certainly choose to open the meeting and proceed with the informational presentation and informational items, and I will let you know if or when a quorum is present.
Okay, Chris, why don't we do that? And then we'll do the, we'll have Kathleen do her presentation, and then we will do the approval of today's agenda and minutes. All right, so welcome everybody to our first quarter meeting. I think we will just toss it right to Kathleen Ryan to give us her presentation on the Aiken River Trails Committee.
And I can help you with that and start off, Kathleen. I think Megan will be joining us as well, Megan Christensen, but I'll stand in her absence here for now. Megan recommended that this presentation be scheduled for the commission today. She has been working, Megan, that is, with the Aiken River Trails Partnership for quite a while, attending meetings and observing what they're doing, and just always has really good things to say about things happening in the Aiken County area and all the things that they're doing related to the river and Great River Road. Kathleen's involved with, and I believe is chair of that committee, and so she has some information to share with you today. She is with Aiken County, and we're so excited to have her. And if this works for me, I'm going to go ahead and share her presentation with you. And Kathleen, welcome. I'll get this up on screen, and then I will advance slides for you, hopefully momentarily here.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Chris.
Can everyone see that?
Yep.
So let me just get to the slideshow from the beginning. And there we have it. Kathleen, welcome whenever you're ready, and just have me advance slides as you wish.
Sure, thank you. So I am the chair of the Aiken County Riverboat Trails. Our group was started probably about 6 years ago, and at that time I was city administrator here in the city of Aiken. I have since moved back to the county, and my official role with the county is CFO for Aiken County, but I am, like I say, the riverboat or the River Trails chair. We just officially named our trails on the Mississippi River, and our overall trail group and the trails are the Aiken County Riverboat Trails. We have the most Mississippi River frontage miles in the state of Minnesota, and so we feel pretty special to highlight that in our county. And go ahead and advance. So our mission statement for our group, we're called the Aiken Water Trails Committee. It is a volunteer-led with goal to advocate for sustainable use of the Ripple River, the Mississippi River, and connected waterways in Aiken County. We aim to promote Aiken County as a destination for outdoor recreation and natural wonder. When our group started, we started with our Ripple River, which is located here in the city of Aiken, but it actually runs into the Mississippi River. And so we kind of use those together as our first, what we call our first water trail. You can go ahead and advance. So this committee is a partnership. We have, it's actually a committee out of the Aiken County Chamber, but then also we have involvement with the Aiken County Economic Development. Mississippi Headwaters Board is a partner on our committee. Megan is a partner on our committee. And then we have other just invested community members that are partners also. We have the Corps of Engineers that come to our meeting. They're up at Big Sandy, and so they have interest into their portion of the Mississippi River. Go ahead and go. Thank you. So in 2023, some of the activities that we had going on is, like I say, we actually named our river trail system, the Aiken County Riverboat Trails. But then within that system, we named 11 individual kayak canoe trails. And we have more trails to name. Those are ones that we've actually developed sections of the Mississippi River with a launch area and an exit area, so we can give directions and kind of promote those areas of the river for individuals to try and to use. And then also within that, we also had 2 events. We had the Paddle Your Glass Off event and the Paddle Your Stress Away event. You can advance.
No, it's acting up on me, Kathleen.
Oh, that's too bad.
I'm telling it to, and we'll see here if there we go. All right.
So with naming the Aiken County Riverboat Trails, what we did was actually a survey out to the public asking for input and what people thought. And then we took that information and we put it together and kind of developed that into what our name would be. We picked the Riverboat Trails because Aiken County and the city of Aiken actually developed because we were a riverboat town, and the whole Mississippi from Aiken all the way up to Grand Rapids was used for riverboats. And then, like I say, we have 11 named trails that go from Jacobson to Pine Knoll, and there's more sections in there that what we are still developing. Go advance. With the events that we held this year, one of them was the Paddle Your Glass Off. This was the 3rd year for the Paddle Your Glass Off. We have about 100 participants. And at this time, we are actually limiting it to 100 just because with our manpower and the timing, we handle 100 well. We shuttle people from our launch area or up from our parking area up to the launch area. They're able to exit, and then we have wine, beer, liquor tasting. This year we added live music, and each year it's kind of grown in interest, and we've had new people come and experience it. And it's fun to say, I noted we've had people from Rochester, from North Dakota, from Iowa, and it's fun because everybody comes and they have such a great time and they want to come back the next year because they enjoy it so much. And then the next, if you want to advance.
Is it showing Paddle Your Stress Away? Or you?
Yeah. Oh, yep. There it is.
Okay.
Paddle Your Stress Away was a new activity that we hosted this year. We kind of started it just as a smaller, with just community or county employees, hospital employees, and chamber employees to participate, kind of like a mental health getaway event. It was the same kind of a situation as the Paddle Your Glass Away, whereas people could park at the exit onto the river and we shuttled them up to the launch. We had support getting into the river. People could paddle the route, and then when they got out, we actually had the hospital CEO was cooking burgers, and we could hang out and have just good conversation. So we need to kind of tweak things a little bit, but we thought for the first year, having 25 people was a pretty good start. So what we're planning on doing as we're going forward is this summer coming up, we have 2 new accesses going in on the Mississippi. Our partnership with the county land department is allowing this. They're working with the DNR. These 2 new accesses are on a portion of the Mississippi that will allow individuals to park in one spot. They can do a short little loop. We'll be calling it kind of our big beginner loop. It will only be like maybe an hour paddle, and then they're able to get out and their vehicle will be right there. So it's a great little location. And then we're also working on our naming more trails and working on the trails that we have named and bringing them out for individuals' awareness. We'll be doing the Paddle Your Glass Off again, and we will be doing the Paddle Your Stress Away, giving support. And that's what we're finding when we do those events, when we give support and help people get into the river and show them that it's not scary, that it's very user friendly. And once they're on the river, they discover they can use it themselves. And it's been wonderful. So that, I guess if there was any questions or.
I will just interrupt you for a minute, Kathleen. I'm sorry about this. If Megan or others are in the meeting room and hear me, Carl is waiting outside. If someone could go grab him. Thank you. Thanks all of you for your patience. We're rolling with a few different things here, and Carl Samp's just trying to get into the meeting room, but needs an escort from the security desk to do that. So thank you for sliding over to that for a minute. And Kathleen, thank you so much for that. Did I see that Megan joined us as well? She may have a few words to share. Do you
I
see us, Meg?
If I could figure out my camera and everything, I apologize. I am over in Bemidji. My mom just had a knee replacement, so I am over here helping. What I wanted to say is I think the world of Aiken, the city, the county, this task force is amazing. They have a small number of people that are doing wonderful things. And that's why I said that they needed to present, because Kathleen and the rest of them from this group, they have accomplished way more than Grand Rapids has. And of my section of the river, they're kind of my rock star. And to the point that Grand Rapids Trails Task Force, they're like, yeah, we know Aiken's rocking it. So they get sick of me talking about it. But I think what's fun as us as representatives on the river is that we get to work with these communities and the members of the community in such different ways. And I just thought it was time that we, kind of heard some hey, we don't have a big request, but they're those feel good stories that you want to hear, because it is grassroots movement. It is starting really, really small and seeing what is possible. So thank you so much, Kathleen, because your group is great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Kathleen. And thank you, Meg. I do have a question for you, Kathleen, and then I'll look for any hands that are up. Oh, I see Anne. But Kathleen, I was wondering a couple of things. How much did you charge for the paddle your glass off and paddle your stress away? And how did you market it out there?
Sure. So the paddle your glass off, I believe this last year we charged about $30. That is because we also, that is more to kind of give us a little bit towards our expenses, because we have to pay for a porta potty and those, but we also get swag. So we like to, give out something that not only you're participating, but you get something fun. So this year we had, floatable bags with our logo on them. We're called the Ripple Sippy River Group too. So we have Ripple Sippy on there, those floatable waterproof bags. And so years before, we've had wine glasses, insulated wine glasses with our logo on them. So that's why we charge a little bit more, but we try to keep it reasonable. So it's, people are still wanting to participate. The paddle your stress off was free, because the hospital sponsored that. It was a pretty low cost event. We kind of made it really informal. And so there was no cost to that for us. And yeah, this year they might be, depending on, if we add some funner things to it.
And how did you market it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Facebook. We market on Facebook a lot, by social media. And then with our partnership with the Mississippi Headwaters Board, Tim Terrell is the director, and he's on our committee, but he also has a reach out point. So he sends it through his channels also.
Wow, thank you. Could you think you probably would have had more than 100 if you didn't cut it off?
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking $30 is pretty cheap.
Yeah. Yep. And so we put a limit on it, because I think there would, and especially if we put more into marketing, we don't do the radio, we don't do the newspaper. So definitely.
Thank you. Anne?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, because I'm familiar with the area. Does Aiken still do the Riverboat Days, and is this somehow a part of the Riverboat Days that you're doing? And my other question is, when you did the paddle your stress off, were you experimenting with whether that's a pilot for expanding it beyond the hospital and healthcare workers? And so it's kind of a two-part question.
Kathleen?
Aiken used to be the riverboat city. I don't know if you still claim that or not.
We still do. We still have riverboat days. This event is not held with riverboat days. We do have our Ripple Sippy paddle, which it goes from City Park down the Ripple River. It empties into the Mississippi, and then you're able to get out at the Aiken County Campground, which is, you know, a pretty close area, so it's easy to get to vehicles and such. We've had troubles with that the last few years just because of water levels. Because of the Ripple River is a smaller river and it gets clogged easy. But that event we try to hold on riverboat days for people to participate in. The paddle your glass off, we might be holding. We also have a Ripple Sippy music festival that has started the last couple of years, and we may try to tie those two events together now. But yeah, that's separate. The paddle your stress away, it was kind of a pilot to see how that will go and kind of build on it and put the dates together and kind of figure it out. So we're hoping to kind of grow on that and build that into something additional.
Thank you. Sounds great.
Anybody else have any questions? Oh, John, you're on mute.
I thought I clicked it off. I missed it. No, when is the paddle your glass off? What are the dates for that?
We haven't set the 2024 date yet. It will be in June. We're tentative on June 17th, but we have a meeting next week to confirm that date for sure.
Is it full already?
No. We can let you know when the registration goes up.
That would be great. Thanks. I was also thinking about the paddle your stress event is in September, I saw.
Yes, yep. So we're planning to hold that again in the fall. We might have to tweak the timing a little bit on that.
I was just going to say that we're looking at, that's our Drive the Great River Road month for the Great River Road in the state. And we're looking at focusing on outdoor recreation with the DNR in the lead. And so that event seems to fit right in the wheelhouse of what we're planning if you do it in September.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah, because the fall time was good. We were just trying to determine if it should be like an late afternoon, evening, because kids are in school. I think we did it on a Saturday and a bunch of people are away at school events. And so trying to tweak that, keep it in the fall, but yet still have family participation.
Great, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions for Kathleen?
This is Chris. I'll just say, Kathleen, when you're ready with those links for registration and such, if you want to send them my way, I'll make sure that all the folks online here get those.
I will do that. Thank you, Chris.
You bet.
Thank you. That was pretty cool. Thanks, Meg, for inviting her to come on. That was very interesting. And send the link to me, Chris, before you send it to John, just because.
Okay. That chair before vice chair.
Like,
yes.
3 hours so I can get in ahead of John, because that's a big deal.
I'm looking for the right reaction emoji here.
Thank you very much. I think now we should do our welcome and introduction. Should we do that?
Sounds good. And Chair Housley, you do have quorum as it appears right now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And I'll just read them off how they are on my screen here. I'm Senator Karen Housley. I represent Senate District 33 in the Minnesota Senate, which is Stillwater, Forest Lake, and the surrounding St. Croix Valley. Ann Lewis.
I'm Ann Lewis.
There you are. You're good.
I think I'm delegate commissioner at large for the state.
John.
Hi, I'm John Infanson. I am the Metro Region Commissioner, Elk River to Hastings, and I'm also Vice Chair of the State Commission.
Paul.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Huguenin. I represent the Minnesota Department of Agriculture.
Grant.
Good afternoon, Grant Wilson, DNR Regional Director and represent the Department of Natural Resources.
Oh, it says, oh yeah, Kelly.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Kelly Bruns, I'm the Central Region Manager for the Division of State Parks and Trails, and I'm the technical member for DNR.
Awesome. Dave Kelleher.
Hi, David Kelleher, appointee of the Minnesota Historical Society.
Lauren.
Yeah, I'm not an official member, but here with Kelly and Grant from the DNR from Region 3 and used to work at the Historical Society. So hi, David.
Hi, Lauren, great to see you.
Megan from your mom's room.
I can figure out how to unmute. This is Megan Christensen. I am the Executive Director of Visit Grand Rapids, and I serve Grand Rapids to Brainerd.
Thank you. Peter.
Peter McDonough, Senior Landscape Architect, Technical Advisor for Minnesota and at MnDOT. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Carl.
Carl Samp, I'm the elected regional commissioner from the Brainerd to Elk River section.
Carol.
I'm Carol Zopp with the Minnesota Department of Transportation, previous liaison, and Marnie says well wishes. She's on vacation this week, though.
Awesome. Chris Miller, everybody knows you, but go ahead.
This is Chris Miller, your staff member. Good to see you all.
And then the two of you that are live and in person down at the Capitol from the LCC.
Oh, who's you? Sally Finday. I'm a planner for the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe, and I'm also the commissioner from the headwaters to Grand Rapids.
And I'm Megan Volke, an admin with the LCC.
Awesome. Did I get everybody? I think so. That was 16. Okay. We are good. Next up on the agenda, now that we have a quorum, we need to approve today's agenda and the minutes from the November quarterly meeting. I think you've all got that in your packet. First, I will announce that a quorum is present. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I will. John.
Second, Carl.
Perfect. So our meeting minutes have been approved. Now we are going on to the budget report, and the budget is in, I think it's page 7. No, it's on page 6. Page 6, yes. And I think, Chris, you want to do a brief overview before you toss it to Ann?
Sure. Chair Housley, you have a budget report in your packet, page 6, as Senator Housley said, showing you your expenditures to date, or roughly to date. There are a few more that have come in, but it shows you where you're at currently in terms of what has been spent and what remains. A couple of things I'll draw to your attention. We will be receiving an invoice for national MRPC dues. So that's an annual $15,000 expenditure, which is a significant portion of your budget. We've requested that invoice, and so that will be going out. Based on what things are looking like right now, you might have about $4,000 remaining in your national meetings line item that you could shift to some other activities. We'll talk more about that coming up, and Treasurer Lewis will as well. Some other line items will likely offset each other, more spent in professional technical services, for example, potentially less in quarterly meetings. Another thing I will mention is that you do now have a very limited supply of maps remaining on hand. And so we'll talk about that later in the agenda as well. But this shows you roughly where you're at year to date. It is reflecting changes in travel from some of the past years under COVID when we didn't have national meetings to go to, or as much travel within state. So you're seeing that, but we're also seeing the impact of continued hybrid meetings, like we have today, where we're having a mix of that moving forward, I would say. This is the first year of the 2-year budget biennium. This fiscal year will end for you on June 30th, 2024. Any budget amounts that you have that might be unspent may be carried into fiscal year 2025 coming up. That'll be an important consideration as you look at some of the other items coming on the agenda. So I'm happy to take questions, but Treasurer Lewis, if you would like to share, I'll toss it to you.
You pretty much hit it, Chris, and I think underscoring those two items, the ability to carry over along with the possible, I don't want to call it a surplus, but the unused funds of about 4,000 is worth keeping in mind as we talk about some of these other things that are coming up.
All right. Let's see. Chris, what do I do from here? If everybody, oh, we need a motion to approve the budget, or?
Yeah, at times they accept the budget, certainly, if you like.
I would move the approval of the budget.
Second by Sally.
Thanks, Sally.
Awesome. So you've got the executive committee support letter authority.
Certainly, I can start speaking about that if you like. The executive committee met in January. The minutes are in your packet, pages 7 to 8. And one thing that happened that day is that a request came in for a letter of support just prior to that meeting. It was from the city of Sauk Rapids, and it was for 2 projects that you all already approved at last November's meeting for letters of support under the Transportation Alternatives Program. So you approved letters of support for a certain funding source last November. Those local contacts decided to proceed with seeking funding from additional sources and came back to the commission saying they appreciated the previous letters of support and were looking for additional letters for the same projects for different funding sources. The executive committee in January went ahead and approved that because they were in fact the same projects that you all looked at. But also the executive committee recommended bringing this question back to you as a full commission to determine how you'd like to handle that moving forward. Is that something that you'd like to formalize? Is it not? How would you like to proceed? So if you as a full commission have reviewed projects, approved letters for a certain funding source, would you authorize the executive committee to act on that if it's between regular commission meetings? Or would you authorize the chair and vice chair to do that if it's the same approved project, just a different funding source between meetings? Or do you prefer to keep things generally as they have been where everything comes back to you? I will say that in the past, depending on commission members at the time, that has gone both ways. Sometimes the group is comfortable with saying we approve a letter for this project for whatever funding source they may be seeking. Other times, the members have said, we'd really rather see it back and be able to make a decision on it. So that's the question before you, Chair Housley and others.
Any discussion from members which way you'd like it to go?
Well, this is John. I'm on the executive committee and vice chair. So I would like to hear from those who aren't in that capacity. But my feeling is that since we only meet 4 times a year, it's much more expeditious to be able to, if we've already approved the project and the funding sources are routine funding sources, that the, depending on the timing, if we have an executive committee, it's great to have the full executive committee. If that's not available, then the chair or the vice chair should be able to sign such a letter. That's my thought.
Anyone else? That is my thought too, just to make things go quicker and smoother since we do only meet 4 times a year. Oh, yep. And MACD is all on board with that. So if there is no other discussion, does somebody want to make a motion to have the chair and vice chair approve that?
This is
So
Grant, so
moved.
moved.
Second.
Thank you, Grant. Was that motion? Thank you. Did I see a motion by Grant Wilson, second by Ann Lewis? Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Moving right along, we've got the Minnesota, our priority list and planning. The executive committee reviewed the list and discussed notes from the August 23rd MRPC meeting and made recommendations as reflected in the notes in the packet, page 7 to 8. If there's any comments or further discussion, oh, you got to go with this one, Chris, because you've got more to say on this one.
It'll flow into your next topic on the agenda. You started as a commission talking about projects and priorities at the August meeting, sent it on to the executive committee. They reviewed it. They reviewed the list, they reviewed the discussion from the commission and other things that have come in since your last meetings. Their recommendations are reflected, as Senator Housley said, on page 8. Really to focus on the list of current priorities at levels determined by capacity, including commission member availability, staff time, and budget. Continue to respond to and comment on public utility projects. Those are things that have started to come in for you. They also talked about plans to potentially host a national MRPC annual meeting in 2025 or 2024 if necessary. And that would become a top priority and focus for a time if that happens. And then the list of on-hold items would be revisited a little bit later. So that's what Senator Housley is referring to. When the executive committee met, they requested that the National MRPC office reach out to other states to see who's interested in hosting. That question is coming back to Minnesota. So that leads you into your next agenda item. So if you in fact move forward with something like that, that will determine your priority in the short term, but you do still have the list before you that had been generated and discussed. So if anybody knows of anything else, I guess, coming in the door hot and fast, it would be good for us to get it on the list so that you can address it. Anything else anybody knows of that is kind of at the door right now? Okay, Carol.
I'm not finding my hand up, but sorry. Senator Housley, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Carol.
One thing that we mentioned this also at our last meeting, is that we're working at MDOT to identify what to do with, at first our emphasis was on some original artwork that had been used in collateral materials and interpretive panels and maps and such. Over time, anticipating a consolidation of space within our office areas. Since that time, just last Thursday, I received a notification that there's 5 boxes of historical program documents, expenditures, plans, etc., at our record retention center that they now is on a schedule to look at potential disposal. And so I talked to Chris a bit about this too, and she too has some, organizational documents, foundational documents that we're just thinking we need to take a bigger look at record retention and archiving this. So we have reached out to MHS, and they have an archivist that specializes in government programs and projects and archiving that record. So they're available, but it's just something that would maybe take some of the commissioners. I'm thinking, John, you mentioned before that you're actually buying some of these documents on Amazon.com. We have them in our office, but they were running out of space. And so, well, we do have MHS staff. It might be something that David would want to also come and review. And then Chris as well. It is our recommendation that we have the leadership take a look at it, understand what's there, and then help us decide the prioritization of what we're going to archive. I've did this in the past, those 5 boxes. Back in 2002, though, a long time ago. But we have other material that really is something that should be archived, I feel. So I just wanted to add that to the mix. It shouldn't interfere with anything, but for a couple of folks, I think I'd request that we have some at least initial review and prioritization.
Thank you, Carol. Is there any discussion of adding the archiving of those materials to the priority list? Everyone good with that? All right. I don't think we need to vote on that. We can just add it to the list, right, Chris?
Carol, did you need any action from the commission at this time requesting that those be saved and archived for up to 1 more year while the commission determines a process, or is it enough if the commission discussed this and recommended it informally?
Good question, because for the record retention center elements or items, there is a June deadline for that. But when I talked to Charlie at the Chess Archive, he felt that, you know, as long as we have consensus and I'm given authorization, I can sign that over to him in a very short amount of time. So I think we'll meet that deadline. It's more so kind of a heads up to, say, John and yourself and David, that I may be sending out an appointment.
I'm definitely willing to help on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm willing to help, and also I would just note that the folks at State Archives are real pros. That's what they do with every level of government, from township up to state agencies. So that's what they do every day. So they will ultimately make a determination of what might be valuable for future historians to research the work of the commission. So they will be very helpful. So if that will cut out a little bit of worrying about this, know that they're there to help.
And when you were very eager to no, they recognize the value. So
that is great. Thank you, Carol, and everyone else for helping out with that. Any more discussion? Okay, we're going on to the next bullet point. The national MRPC meeting coming up. Stay tuned. This is good stuff. I'm tossing it over to you, John.
Well, I know how much fun you had, Senator, at the one in Illinois. So Louisiana was supposed to be on tap to do the national meeting this year, but they just don't have the capacity right now. The key person has had some health issues, and without her there, it wasn't feasible. So the national office came to me kind of late here and asked if Minnesota would consider it. I brought it to the executive committee. We had a good discussion. Executive committee members weigh in if you want to add something. But the consensus coming out of the committee was we'd really rather do it in 25. And so we went back. I went back to Suzanne. I said, Suzanne, look at other states and kind of press them to see if they're willing to do it. She did that. She talked to Arkansas. She talked to Mississippi. Illinois and Tennessee have already handled it recently. Kentucky's not in a great place to hold it. They just don't have the right cities on the river or places to do it. Wisconsin's also had something recently. So Suzanne came back and said, there's really no one else willing to stand up. Would Minnesota consider doing it? So what we're bringing back to you is a conversation of, is Minnesota willing to take this on? It would be a tragedy if we let that slide for a year and didn't have a national meeting at all. We're having some issues with some states even being viable as commissions right now, and we really need to keep the energy behind this organization going. So I'm happy to open it to a conversation.
Well, like we said in the executive committee, it's like almost planning a wedding, and we have from now until September to get that done. It's a lot of work. And thank you for going to those other states and asking if that's where I was at, like, see if one of the other ones can do it. But they can't, and it would be terrible if we didn't have them, because I did have a lot of fun at the last one, and I think everybody had a lot of fun. But yeah, what does this board think of doing that quickly?
This is Sally Fine. What we talked about was possibly, because we already had planned Bemidji as being the site. I mean, I think it would probably be, at this point, we'd really have to get on the ball and get in touch with some folks at Bemidji, maybe talk to the local tribes and see if they'd be involved, you know, just kind of gathering some financial support for this event, if we're going to do this in 2024.
Can I jump in quick before anyone
Yep.
else does? John did get some more information from the national office as well on exactly what this would mean. Well, closer to exactly what would this mean. And the timing on it would really be that they would want to announce the location in April. Actually, announce the location as soon as possible, open the room block in April, the hotel reservations, and have all of the meeting information and registration ready to go in May. So if you would choose to do this, it would really happen right now over the next few months. We do have a list of what the site requirements would be, what the state organization would be expected to provide versus the national organization. We have information from past meetings when we hosted in St. Cloud and in Red Wing, so I could certainly tell you about that. And when we talked about budget, the $4,000 or so that we know is available in one line item, I wouldn't necessarily call it extra at this point, because you kind of have things lined up to do with that. But if you would choose to do the annual meeting, we would want to set that aside for costs related to that this fiscal year into next. And because you're crossing fiscal years, you would have more flexibility. I can talk to you more about costs when you want to know that. One thing I would say is that you budget annually to send people to the national meeting, and some of the costs will wash in a way, because you'll switch from sending fewer people at a higher cost to more people at a lesser cost. And so that the travel portion kind of works itself out, and then it's what you spend in addition to that. So we have been looking at all that behind the scenes, John and Ann and I and others, trying to have information for you. There also have been some other sites discussed and brought up in the state because this would need to go so quickly. So we have been trying to work that out for you in the background a little bit. John, I don't know if there's more you'd like to share on that.
No, and it's really a 2.5 day meeting. That you come in on a Wednesday, the afternoon is basically the commission meeting. And then the evening, there's a reception that we would be expected to host. And then the next day, there's sessions in the morning with a lunch, and then afternoon sessions, and then an evening gala get together kind of ceremony. And then the next morning, we end with kind of committee reports, but also general presentations as well. That's the layout of it. I really appreciate Sally's offer of Bemidji as a possible option. Winona has indicated interest in doing it as well, and it thinks that they could stand it up pretty quickly. So that's just another option.
Anne, you were next.
Well, the way that John described it, it sounded like 2.5 days, and actually it's a total of 2 days over 3 days. It's coming in the afternoon, one whole day, and then a half a day, the second day. So it's not as long as it used to be. It used to be 2.5 days, really 2.5 days. And now it's really come in an afternoon, have a welcoming event, have a day of working hard on things, hearing speakers, and then the final day is sort of a wrap-up day where accomplishments are tried to be worked out, and people are able to leave by noon. So it's not as big an undertaking time-wise as it once was.
Thanks, Ann. David.
Thanks, Chair Housley. Couple thoughts sort of related. First is when we were talking about hosting the meeting in Bemidji a few years back, and then we didn't, that was a bummer because we were all getting really, really charged up about some of the possibilities with working with tribal nations, et cetera. I do wonder, Bemidji's not a huge city, but would they have the capacity? This is not a huge meeting, and I know that that's what you guys are going to work on, but have a little bit of concern about that. Second question, when we were going to host the meeting before, we were talking about having the meeting be joint with the Rivertown mayors and/or the National Conference of Environmental Legislators. Not sure if I'm getting the title of the group right. Those were, you know, we were with NCEL for part of the meeting in Memphis, and that was like a first date. You know, it was a little awkward, but I think it was really good synergy starting. I wonder if we've checked out if those groups have any meetings scheduled for 24 or 25. Obviously, with the lead time for 25, we might be able to do that more readily. So a couple things to throw out.
John.
It was about synergy, I think, is what it was. We knew they were meeting there. It was a great, Bemidji is a fantastic place to be, access to the headwaters. And in terms of the synergy this year, we were looking at, you know, coinciding with the 100th anniversary of the Upper Mississippi National Wildlife and Fish Refuge, which would push us down to Winona. But I like the idea of what synergy is there to gain and what partnerships are there in whatever place we choose. And but again, the key point is it needs to happen really fast.
Anything to add to that, David, or? Nope. Grant.
Thanks, Chair Housley. So I think we should be realistic about just the time frame might mean that the event is what we can do with it is different than what a typical year might be. So that's something that comes to mind, that if we do choose to take this on in this time frame, just to be realistic with ourselves and realistic with the national group about what that might mean. And I do think that, you know, while we don't want to let it just go for a year, I have unfortunately not been able to attend one in the past. I don't know if it's scalable or is doable in sort of a different level of expectation than would be typically seen by folks. So that's all I wanted to share. Thanks.
Do you know, John or Chris or anybody on, it didn't seem like there was a ton of people there when I thought there was going to be a lot more. So what was there, like 150 in that room that listened to the speaker? Not even that many, Ann?
Probably about 100. And I don't, it's often, that synergy is a critical piece that John talked about because it brings in other interest areas. The other piece is how easy to get to it from we have strong states around us, or we did. I just have no idea what's going on with Iowa. But certainly Wisconsin and Minnesota, and to some degree Illinois, we are positioned very well for attracting people from those states, and those are stronger states. Iowa's typically a strong state. They're just battling something that we're not sure how that's going to.
Oh, you froze, Ann. Oh, looks like she got, oh, there you are. You're back, Ann.
Now you're muted though, Ann.
So anyway, as I was saying, I think the we are in a position to expect somewhat, well, it would be about the same amount, I think. Same amount of people. Unless we
could
did a
offer-
synergistic arrangement and programmed around the synergy with the refuge. And there is some reason to believe we could do that, I think.
I would just follow up, and Suzanne let us know they would generally be planning for 60 to 75 for this one, is what she said. I'd say more shoot for the 75. When you hosted in St. Cloud in 2015, it was something like 88. Excuse me, and what you did for that one was invited in a lot of partners as presenters and then to attend the full meeting. And the commission paid for their registrations to do so. So that was your part of your budgetary contribution that year. So there are different things that have been done. That year you ran a special conversation from Convention and Visitors Bureaus and partners so that they could have a roundtable. I think, Carl, you might have led that discussion back at that time. So you put together some special things to draw in some additional partners to attend. So there are a lot of different ways it can be approached, but I'm very much feeling what Grant said in that there are things that can be done. It just might not be the same as some years if you had a year to plan it out, to plan that wedding.
I guess that's what I just would want to make sure that we did a really, really good job and not just a rush job because they needed someone to fill the spot. And I hate to be the politician in me, but is there any way that we could say, yeah, all right, we'll do it just to, fill the gap for you guys. But we would also like it in whatever year we say where we could actually plan it with the synergy and all of that. So kind of we're helping them out. And so, maybe if we do it in Bemidji with the whole synergy thing, and if Winona right now is really quick and has the setup all ready to go, if that would be simpler, or vice versa, or however we decide. But just throwing that out there saying, we might want this again and we get first dibs on the year we pick.
Senator, if I may, I was gonna say the same thing basically. Is one of the things I want to push the national office on is we should have this schedule 5 years out, and there shouldn't be any question about it. And not that many states can do it. Minnesota gets tapped fairly frequently, and I was going to suggest that same thing is that if we could get this schedule set a few years out and then do it in Bemidji when we can really plan it thoroughly and not rush everybody up there. That I think that would be the best route, but I don't want to take anything away from Sally. And Sally, I mean, I'd like to hear what you're thinking about that.
Well, I know I was at the meeting when we discussed this and we talked about the other two cities and St. Cloud and Red Wing. And I think that's definitely and it always happens in September. Am I correct? I'm really not sure if we move around at all. Is it in September, mid-September?
Yes.
So there's a lot of things that happen in the area in mid-September, especially it could be either on the northern part. I think the reason that we selected the northern part was because it is the headwaters. And there was a field trip to the headwaters, I believe. I'm not right. Is that right? Yep. And that's quite something, in the fall to actually experience the headwaters in the and not only that, we have the capacity. There is if it were a smaller venue, the venue that was selected at the last meeting, I thought was pretty large. I think it was the convention center. Yeah. But if we chose a hotel, there's a couple of hotels that are right there on lakes, right next to the conventions, or kind of in the area, same area, that would probably be more cost effective. And then I thought that perhaps, the involvement of some of the tribes, not only in supporting, but maybe just a tour as well of some of the local tribes, Red Lake and Leech Lake, because we're right there in the area of Bemidji. And I think it would be beneficial for a lot of people up and down the Mississippi River who haven't had any participation with tribes at all. So I think it would be extremely, like for me, I really wanted to go to Illinois, mostly because it was the Cahokia is there. And I went there and experienced that. It was fabulous. I drove the Great River Road from, down from St. Paul. well, my house to St. Paul, and then, you know, it was quite the trip and really a nice trip. But I also experienced, I wanted to go because that site really had my interest, and it was well worth the visit. And I was surprised too that it wasn't a larger meeting, you know, and I thought we had a nice group of people. I just had a great time meeting everybody, and it was a wonderful day of meeting, but really that was about it, that one day, because I didn't come in early enough for the event in the evening, the welcome event. But I spent the whole day and then the half day, and I felt positive about everything. It didn't seem to me like it was really a big to-do as far as maybe the planning, maybe because I didn't get there for the grant. I didn't get there late on the first day, so I don't know. I guess I liked it. I experienced it. It was good. And I think that if we were going to do it in Bemidji, that it would be a good experience for people to actually be, maybe some people have never been introduced to the Native American communities in the surrounding areas. I think that's about my only insert at this point, is to think of the.
Oh, thanks, Sally. Did they just go away? We lost them.
I see that.
We're
Maybe they can hear us. I know we can't see them. Well, when she comes back, she might have to tell us. Yeah, I see the LCC tech, but we lost their video. She'll have to tell you how on the drive, they ran into a unicorn. Yeah. We're going to go Carl and then Peter in order of hands. And then when Sally comes back, we'll tell her where we're at. Go ahead, Carl. I think you're on mute. Carl, you're on mute. Carl. Uh-oh. Carl, we can't hear you. Carl?
Maybe
Carl, we couldn't hear you. I don't think. I'm going to flip over to Peter. Do you still want your hand up?
I just, Sally answered the question. My concern was that if it was in Winona, there are 2 interpretive centers that could host the event. But she made the point that if it was in Bemidji, the host would be at the headwaters and the interpretive center there. So she took care of that idea. So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Carl, can we hear you yet? You can hear us, but we can't hear you.
I'm not sure you can even hear us.
I'm going to go over to John.
I'm trying to lower my hand. I would just say this, there's 2 decisions to make. And one is, are we in agreement that we should proceed with having the meeting in Minnesota? And then second, maybe it's to be determined of where it's going to be. And maybe we talk to Winona and Sally talks to Bemidji, and seeing what's the ability to answer the questions that Chris laid out of the deadlines. Here's the deadlines. Can the 2 communities meet that deadline that we have, and then go from there? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, first deciding on, yes, we'll do it, and then hashing it out from there. And I think, Carl, speak once for a second.
Oh, yeah, we lost sound on our main system, so
5 minutes, so we're kind of lost now. You know what it said.
It happened during Sally's discussion.
Yeah, I was talking, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and I'm like, okay, well, we don't know what happened after that, and I don't think I actually was. If you heard me.
Yeah, we heard you.
Okay.
Yep, Sally, we heard you all the way to the end, and then I took it over and wanted to tell your unicorn story along your Great River Road drive, because you neglected to tell everybody about that.
Totally forgot it. So, do you want me to go ahead and tell it?
No, you don't have to tell it. Actually, we'll save that for the the opening welcome reception. We'll tell the story at the welcome reception in 2024 when we do it, and we're going to get you up there and do the slideshow. So who's ever taken notes, put that on there, that's a priority, that Sally tells the story.
Oh, yes, that's terrific.
So while you guys lost sound, while you guys couldn't hear us, John said that he thinks it's probably important for us to decide now, yes, we will take it on. I don't know if we have any other choice. And then we can decide either between Bemidji and Winona in the next couple of weeks. Sally, you talk to your people, and I don't know who would be the Winona liaison, but that's kind of where we're at right now. But if you guys weren't done, Carl and Sally, you can go next, and then we'll go to Carol.
I was just going to ask John, is Louisiana committed to next year then, John?
No, there is no forthcoming locations list that I know of right now. Suzanne has committed to say she's going to work hard on developing such a list, and that might be a priority of the next meeting if we have it in Minnesota. If we agree to that we try have a small gap time where we hash that out. But no.
Okay.
So talk about the deadlines.
Oh, go ahead, Sally.
Oh,
yeah, maybe you missed the deadlines. Do you want to say them again, John?
I have Chris do that. You had that laid out really nice, Chris.
Absolutely. I have to look at my notes though and make sure that I can see them without my glasses. Suzanne sent this. They are looking at dates, preferably in September. First choice being the week of September 16th. Second choice being the week of September 9th. And as you've heard mentioned, it would be coming in on a Wednesday afternoon, meetings all day Thursday, and meetings half of Friday. They would like to make the location announcement soon, open hotel reservations in April, and open meeting registration in May, meaning that the agenda would need to be complete by that time. We wouldn't have to have everything confirmed by May. We could still work out some details, but you need to know what your budget is in order to set a registration price. And you have to have some kind of an agenda that would allow people to obtain approval to attend the meeting. So while you will have some wiggle room after that, they're pretty much saying they want it pinned down, in May. So that's the timeline that we were given from national office.
Oh, how much time would we have to check on venue availability?
A week.
Okay.
I'm going to get really blunt with you guys, so just stop me if I need to. But when they're saying they want to announce soon, I think they want to get something out within the next couple of weeks about where that location will be. And then if they want to open hotel reservations in April, we're almost halfway through February now. So John, would that be your understanding from your conversations?
That's what I understand as well. Yes.
Unfortunately, it's fast. It doesn't allow for a whole lot of we could this or we could that, as others have said. It would be kind of a quick emergency fix here.
Can we not make a commitment till we have a chance to check venue availability those times, either in Winona or Bemidji?
That's what would have to happen here within the next couple weeks, I would say. Yeah.
So you're saying, Carl, to not make a commitment to do it in 2024 until we have a venue.
Yeah, I think it's a little silly to make a commitment if we don't know if we have an available venue.
It's a good point.
And I don't think we need to feel guilty about not being able to do it if it's that short a notice for us to try and put it together. So.
Right. Okay.
Senator, if I might, Winona has indicated some ability to do it. Not for sure, but the initial conversation is that they could. We could check on that within days, I think. So again, it's maybe we could reply to the national office that we're checking on venues. We'll have a firm decision by next Friday.
I will just throw in, John, and I know there are hands too, but I've had conversations with Kate. Kate is your rep from Hastings to the Iowa border. She is with Visit Winona. She's in the loop on this and would be willing to look at the needs and see what they could do in Winona. She just had something come up today, unfortunately, so she wasn't able to be with you, but she has indicated willingness to look at possibilities there. So it's not it wouldn't be going in cold to them with the conversation.
And my only guess is when it's a Wednesday and Thursday night for the hotel and they're out by checkout time at 11 for the weekend people coming in, I'm guessing there's availability in both Bemidji and Winona and the Twin Cities for that matter. Now we'll go to Carol, then David, then Grant. Carol.
Okay, briefly. I did look up while we were talking. So the Mississippi River City and Town Initiative was in Bemidji last September. So I don't know, they usually do circulate. I couldn't determine, I looked at the news and events under the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators, and I couldn't see what our next meeting would be. But also I just want to kind of share that there's advantages to both. Even though it is harder to get physically everyone up to Bemidji, it is a draw, unlike anything. People will drop. There are people that are committed to this river that may not go to other meetings, but they'll go to this one because they have a chance to go to the headwaters. And as Sally mentioned, we were in St. Cloud. We had Leech Lake Tribe gave an amazing jingle dance and other drum performance, and it was impactful. People talk about that all the time. And so it is a big opportunity. That said, it is the 100th anniversary of Wildlife Refuge, and Winona could be better able to put it together. Those are just some of the thoughts. Thank you to anybody who helps make this decision.
Thanks, Carol. David.
Thanks, Chair Housley. I was just going to say kind of what you said, that maybe the third choice or fourth choice is if there aren't blocks of rooms available in Winona or Bemidji, then Twin Cities might be a third or fourth choice. There's probably a block of rooms somewhere in the Twin Cities that we can use, but there's plenty of interesting things to do in the Twin Cities, but it's not the headwaters.
Grant.
Thanks, Chair Housley. So I, was going to want to echo what Carol said. The Bemidji and the headwaters are a draw, unlike much else. But that said, if we are going to ask, if we're going to say, yeah, we'll take this year and we'll put something together that we make work, but we want a year out, maybe it's best to do the year out as the big event that we want to do. So maybe that out year would make more sense for Bemidji and the headwaters to really do that right, and especially like getting tribal nation involvement from the beginning. And I just worry about us trying to rush with something like that could be so, I think, impactful for folks.
Peter?
Yes, thank you, Chair Housley. My thought is the radical which is why not have Winona do it this year because it's beside the refuge and it's the 100th anniversary, and perhaps Bemidji do it next year. It seems to me from I've only been at one of the 10 states that Minnesota is very, very well prepared for these kinds of events. The Great River Road is in so well signed, good condition, well taken care of. And some of the southern states have a harder time putting these things together. That's certainly what it appeared to me with the southern part of the river. And I'm wondering if Winona can take it and it's adjacent to the refuge and its 100th year anniversary. So there's some other things that can piggyback off of that. And Kate Carlson has indicated that they would like to do it. And then Bemidji gets the chance to do it next year where it's at the headwaters. I think that maybe Minnesota has the capacity to do that, but I'm not the decision maker. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne? Oh, Sally, do you want to respond to that?
Winona is a beautiful, beautiful place. It really is.
it's very inspiring, and I do believe that's where that it was near when I saw the unicorn tree.
Stop right there. Don't tell them. And
Oh, thank you, Senator. I would just say I know that the Mississippi River Caucus of the NCEL group has just lost their staff person, and I'd be happy to reach out to them and see. At least a year and a half ago, the Wisconsin and the Minnesota NCEL members were very active leaders in the Mississippi River Caucus. No surprise there. Reaching out to one of them might be give me some insight into what they're planning. That's why I think you don't see anything on their website, but I'd be happy to see if I can connect and find out what their interest level might be. It's particularly appropriate for it to be a Mississippi River Caucus of the NCEL. So that's where that outreach would go, if you'd like me to.
yes, we would love for you to. So I guess right now we just have to decide on, do we decide today to agree to host in 2024? Or do we want to wait a week to see if there's venues? Although it seems like we know John has talked to Winona, and there probably would be the availability to do it there. We're not deciding on that, but we would know we would have the capacity somewhere in the state to be able to do it.
Possibly.
So I think Carl, your iPad's still on. We can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
But I'm afraid if you hit mute, we might lose you guys again. Lose your video.
I don't know. We've got the big screen up again. I don't know if we got the sound availability. Is it? Okay. All right. So we're going to switch back to the big screen.
Oh, here we go, folks.
Yeah, Senator, I might recommend that we reply yes, because we need an answer quite soon. But as to location, that we give each community a chance to respond to the timelines and see how they can do so. And then the question is, so we get the answers back, then if we do it that way, will the commission delegate to the executive committee or the chair and vice chair the ability to answer the question?
Okay, before you do that, because I know we would have to make a motion on that, I just wonder, is there any risk of us losing money on doing this? Like, I'm just afraid like we're going to say yes, and then all of a sudden it's going to be like, oh, we're 20,000 in the hole because we didn't realize that it was going to cost so much. No, go ahead.
I will say no. From what Suzanne has told us and from what we've experienced in the past, I'm echoing, I think.
I think you fixed it.
There's a budget set up and registration fees are charged based on the structure of the agenda and the cost to be covered. I think as long as we keep it tight and don't try to do too much, I haven't seen that there have been big losses. Ann and John could help me with that from the national board level, Carl too, but I don't think that would happen. And I also think until something is actually published for registration, if you say that Minnesota will do this and then something comes up and happens and it's like, oh no, absolutely not, we can't. Well, the world's not going to end. And if there isn't a meeting this year, you tried everything you could. I think at these initial phases, just to say Minnesota is willing to take this on doesn't bind you to anything until you can flesh it out a little bit better.
Okay. I think that sounds fair. And I think Carl is saying he thinks that's okay too.
I'm actually just
raising your hand.
I'm raising my hand. We're gonna need to dedicate some of that 4,000 to Chris's time if we're gonna try and host this. So that's gonna be more time intensive for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I would also add if you decide this today, another thought might be, do you want to designate a small team to answer for the commission, or is it the executive committee? If you're choosing locations, if you have small groups of you going to visit, it's also per diem and travel and stuff for members to do that. We'd cost that all out and build that in as well. So those are the kinds of things that you would see in your budget this year, those planning costs that would also involve whichever of you would be in on all of that.
If I might add, then if a planning team's got to go up to Bemidji versus down to Winona, we have to add that into the cost. And to Peter's comment about trying to do it 2 years in a row, it usually switches north to south, back and forth. So it would maybe be every other year would be the opportunity.
So I think we would need a motion to, I'm not going to say accept the challenge, but accept the challenge of hosting the 2024 annual meeting. Does anybody want to make that motion?
I will make that motion since I've been pushing that.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay.
If
Pass.
I may, Chair Housley, so who's in? Who's our core team to try and get this going? And be realistic, we know the session is starting, we know what this means. So we also know that we won't necessarily be able to have everybody involved, but if there's a small team that can answer things quickly and such, we can loop others of you in later and hopefully get lots of attendance. But David, are you in? Is that a raised hand? Okay.
Raise your
Thank
hand
you.
if you're in. That's a great idea.
I'm willing to
David
help.
and John?
I'm willing to help Sally on the northern end of things. I probably wouldn't be involved if it's Winona on the planning, so.
Agreed, yeah.
Anne is in, David is in, John
Okay.
is in. Carla, if it's on the north. Sally, are you in if it's north?
Yeah,
Okay,
That's north.
Sally.
Definitely big questions for the north.
And both David and Anne are north or south? Okay, and
Well,
John?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch. I'll be bugging you guys. You know that's coming. So thank you so much.
Okay, good. Keep us posted on that. Are there any updates to share from the most recent board meeting? I'm switching gears now.
So Senator, if I might, what's the commission action once we get the responses back from the two cities? It may be clear, but it may be still a decision to make.
So what's the commission, this commission that we are, or the small group that you are?
No, once we have the response from Bemidji and Winona as a ability to take it on really fast this year, who decides which one to go with if a decision has to be made? Since there won't be another, we can't wait till the next commission meeting.
Is that an executive committee?
I think an executive committee.
Do we need a motion to, I move that the executive committee resolve as the location.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion pass.
Thank you.
Anything else we need pertaining to the 2024 annual meeting? Okay. I think we're good. Now, any updates to share from the most recent board meeting? All right, we'll go to, we've got the committee updates. We're going to go first to communications and marketing. Chris Miller.
Hi, everybody. I'll make this quick. I know the annual meeting discussion was a priority. The marketing committee did meet earlier this week on February 6th. The fourth quarter marketing report on activities through the National MRPC is available online, and I can send you the link to that so you can take a peek when you have time. They are working on their marketing content and ideas for the coming year. And so we will be getting requests as a state to share information on things like prime selfie locations along the Great River Road. They're interested in accessible locations along the Great River Road and places to see the river for people of all abilities. I did share some of the DNR's track wheelchair state park information with them on that. They're looking for videos, they're looking for food and music events, they're looking for a list of tourism organizations from each state, which I can help them with, but we will be seeing requests for information coming from the national office, and I will share those with all of you to help gather what they're looking for. So you'll be seeing things coming so we can best represent Minnesota, and we'll be in touch on that.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions on the communications and marketing report? Moving on to John with the cultural and heritage report.
And I'll make this really quick as well. We now have 2 model nominations for interpretive centers, the Discovery Park of America in Tennessee and the Upper Mississippi National Wildlife and Fish Refuge Main Visitor Center in Bryce Perry, Wisconsin has been added. So any future nominations will have to kind of try to live up to those 2 models as they're submitted, which should guarantee going forward in the future much more substantive nominations than we've had in the past. So that was a big accomplishment that the committee's worked on over the last couple of years. So I'm happy to say we're done with that.
Any questions on John's report? All right, moving on. Peter, transportation report.
Thank you, Chair Housley, and I will make mine quick also, as it was held on January 26th. Francis Shelfout, who's the Hikes and Trails Coordinator for Wisconsin DOT, is the chair, and the same 2 topics are top of list as per the minutes that were sent out a couple of months ago. And what Chair Shelfout has done has advanced the trademark discussion about the Mississippi River Trail. That organization in Tennessee is defunct. The trademark expires next year, about this time next year, and they have a attorney who is doing some pro bono in La Crosse, who is working with them on doing the steps necessary so that the MRT can be held by MRPC rather than the way it has been. And so that's there. And the interpretive centers, Francis continues to document the interpretive centers. The homework that was assigned for Minnesota was filled out in the last go round before Christmas. Thanks to Carol for that. And there was some sorry. It's KMZs were submitted and put in place. So Minnesota has fulfilled its duties. There are 5 other states that have not, and he is waiting for that. So I'll close it up there. It's almost a repeat of what you saw for the minutes for 4th quarter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Any questions on the transportation report? Thank you. And for our environment, recreation, and agriculture report, Raj Schnick of the Wisconsin MRPC, she's going to speak at our May meeting. And Chris is going to send out links to a couple of upcoming webinars recommended by Roz. So we'll look for those. Now we're moving on to the commission project updates. Drive the Great River Road month 2024. Grant and your planning team, do you want to take that one?
Sure, thank you. So there was a group of us that had the opportunity to have an initial discussion about plans for Drive the Great River Road month for 2024, also in September, and DNR had some previous internal conversations as well. So it was a good initial conversation. What we just wanted to do today is to get essentially capture any other ideas, thoughts about the overall theme or activities within this year's event, and And then I think we'd like to get our group who's working on it directly, and then any other agencies or members who want to participate gathered up to start doing some lifting. So a lot of the conversations we had in that initial meeting dealt with outdoor recreation, connecting people to outdoor recreation along the river, accessibility to outdoor recreation, and then you know, in a really high level, sort of all of the very special outdoor places that can be accessed and experienced on the river. And you know, it's been mentioned a couple times today, but the 100th anniversary of the refuge being one clear thing that could be highlighted. So Lauren Peck, who is joining us today, is DNR's regional information officer for what we call our central region, and that's a big chunk of the Mississippi River, not the whole thing because it covers much of the state. But Lauren has agreed to help coordinate this project for us, and so wanted her to have the opportunity to get to listen in on the conversation, and also wanted to have her hear me say thank you very much for working on this, Lauren. We really appreciate your help. So I wanted to also provide the opportunity for anyone else who was at that meeting to share anything that they wanted to in terms of either themes, topics, ideas, and then open it up to the group for any of your initial thoughts on that big broad theme. So Chris, John, Kelly, anyone else who was in attendance?
Sure, I'll jump in quick, Grant, to start. If the group just wants to take a peek at page 11 of your packet, you see a summary of what the themes have been from 2016 through 2023. So if you're curious what's been done in the past and kind of who headed it up and what was done, you do have a summary there just to show you what's been done in the past. So I'll just draw your attention there. Thanks.
Anyone else that was part of that planning commission? Or Lauren, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nothing from me, but excited to lead this up.
It's awesome.
John, Senator, I just say that, like in the past, and maybe this will assuage Lauren a little bit, is that you know, we want to build on things that are already happening out there, like the Aiken County paddle your glass off kind of events, or the you know, getting outside for the health of being in the outdoors. There's a lot of this that goes on in the state, and it's tapping into all the stuff that maybe the commissioners know is happening in their communities, and then making that part of the Drive Month. So it's not inventing a lot of new stuff; it's taking advantage of what's already there.
John, I would echo that as well. One of the comments that I found striking from the notes where we have an embarrassment of riches. So I think that's going to be our biggest challenge, is really focusing in on exactly what we want to do. I don't think we're going to have any shortage of wonderful ideas or opportunities.
So what is the process that you guys go through to do this Drive the Great River? Just because I'm new and I don't know what you, so then it goes back to Grant and you and your planning commissioner, and then you come up with a list like this. I'm looking at this. You're right, Kelly. It is an embarrassment of riches. I was like, why can't we just go through all of those again? There's a lot there. What's the process for this?
I can help start to answer that. The process has been different from year to year. Depending on who has the time and the inclination to take it on. I'll kind of start back in 2020 at the time, or we'll go back further, when the commission was launching their Plan Your Trip online interactive mapping and had brand new signage along the Great River Road. That became the focus because it was a message that you all wanted to get out to the state. State parks were a theme another year, and MnDOT put together a digital travel guide. In 2020, it was a scenic theme because it was the time of COVID. Many attractions were closed. You had just completed your All-American Road nomination process, so it seemed to make sense to focus on scenic attractions that people could just get out to. Also then in 2021, you celebrated your All-American Road designation and tried to get the word out about that. So it's what others have been saying. It's kind of channeling key things that are happening out there already and the messaging that you want to get across about the Great River Road. In 2022, that fall harvest agriculture theme was suggested at a commission meeting in fall. And then Minnesota Department of Agriculture jumped on board to sponsor and lead that with their Minnesota Grown members because they had already been part of your Plan Your Trip mapping for years. They were seeing that as a way also to help highlight Minnesota Grown and build the connections and partnerships to a different level. Last year it was an arts theme, and so that was handled a little bit differently. In 2022, the Department of Agriculture really sponsored, led, and staffed that whole promotion with support and help from the commission, but they really took it on and led all of that. Last year, you had 2 regional commissioners who led the concept and the development of an arts theme to support communities. Our question was, how could we support communities? And so those 2 regional commissioners led that. And so it's varied a little bit from year to year, but there's always some sort of process as to what is the theme, what is the commission wanting to get out there in terms of the message, who is able to work on that right now, and what pieces and parts are available to make that work. It hasn't looked the same every year, which is kind of great. You can build on things that are out there and make sense at the time. If that just made any sense.
Nope, that made total sense. Thank you for clarifying. Carl.
Yeah, I really like the idea of partnering with our agency partners, like Department of Ag, and now with Grant and his team, and highlighting, some of the things they have to offer. And I didn't see anything on this list that has to do with our historical sites at all, and highlight the history of the river in Minnesota. And so maybe whether it's this year or next, working with David and his team and seeing what we might come up with for that. And I just joined the board of the Crow Wing County Historical Society. So if we knew ahead enough, we could actually plan some events during September, to highlight our own local history. So.
Thank you.
Carl, one thing, sorry to jump in. One thing I would mention is when we were talking about potential themes, outdoor recreation fits in really well with historic sites in general, and some of the historic sites that are along the river in particular. So you think about places like the Oliver Kelly Farm, Fort Snelling, Forest History Center up in Grand Rapids. We are really working towards providing outdoor recreation opportunities at each of those sites. We have a kayak program at Forest History Center now that started up a couple of years ago. So history really is, historic sites are part of outdoor recreation in a lot of ways. But to the second part of your statement, yeah, in future years, let's talk about having history as a theme that can encompass some of the county historical societies up and down the river. That's great. We'll brainstorm that in a future year, and we'll knit it all together this year.
I don't think your hand is still up, Carl. I think it's still up. You're not raising it again. Is there a place where, is there a site that all of the little cities along the Mississippi or the little communities that have their own little, like the paddle I don't want to say that word. I forgot what the other word was. Paddle your glass off. Paddle your glass off. But that have those little festivals that it could be like a party on the Mississippi, and this weekend in August, this is happening there, this weekend in September. Is there a site that has all of the festivals along the Mississippi? Or could that be a theme?
I'll jump in, Senator Housley. There's an opportunity right now with the national MRPC that they have an events listing that everybody can upload their events and they're posted. Last year with the arts theme, we reached out to all the convention visitors bureaus and chambers along the route, invited them to submit their top 3 arts destinations. And that's what we put on a web page designed for the month, and then promoted that on social media all throughout the month. So that was the design that was used, so to speak. Minnesota Grown developed themed itineraries involving different communities and different topics along the route. They were inviting that feedback too. So that's kind of precisely what's happened over the past few years. So I think that Grant and his team, Lauren and others, will be working to, well, along with some of you, develop the format and kind of the structure for how the promotion might look. And then they would be coming back to all of you and partners along the route to participate in that somehow, with content or with items maybe to give away, as has been done in the past. But it's a matter of first coming up with that structure of what it is they want to do, and then reaching out to partners. Grant, is that a fair way to summarize?
Yeah, I think so. It gets back to what John noted before, is that we don't want to create a bunch of events from scratch necessarily. There might be some creation, like a kickoff, something we've talked, I think, in our discussion about maybe the DNR exhibit at the state fair would be a spot to do a kickoff announcement kind of a thing, similar to what Department of Ag did a couple of years ago. So short of that, I think it's more about gathering and connecting people with all of the different opportunities that are out there, both that are hosted by cities and towns, that are going on public lands, that are connected to local businesses, and trying to package that in a way that makes it something that makes people want to go out and get on the river road. So yeah, I think that was a really good way to describe it. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Any further discussion on the Great River Road Month 2024? All right.
Failed to add too is just, I think the historical angle gives us the opportunity to work with our tribes as well along our river.
Awesome.
So
thanks, Carl. Next.
Chair, if I might I would just say, if folks have thoughts, ideas, suggestions, or want to jump in, and again, just want to thank those who've already been participating with us. But just send me a note, send Kelly a note, or Chris a note. We could connect you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, can I just ask a question of Chris? Much of this we're putting together during these themed months stays on our website though, right? Like the art opportunities and
We did keep that up, and I think that the Minnesota Grown itineraries still live out there as well. Those were on the Department of Ag's website. But right, if you go to mnmississippiriver.com, go to digital travel guides, you will still find those arts attractions. We tweaked the language a bit to not be as specific to September, but left that information posted kind of as evergreen arts information to continue keeping that there for communities. And yes, we recently added one from Brainerd, Carl, that you help facilitate. So if there are other things like that you see, we could try to do that. And yes, we tried to not just take that down, but keep that work present and available to keep highlighting those communities.
Super.
All right. Anything else? All right. We're going to move along to what Chris brought up earlier, the Minnesota Great River Road print maps. We had this discussion in the executive committee. We have a very limited supply of the maps remaining on hand, about 3,000, which isn't going to be enough to supply our partner distribution sites for the summer. The remaining maps can be used to fulfill the individual requests from the website and provide small quantities for the commission members and partners. There was just a discussion in our executive committee meeting whether or not we should even continue to print them. A lot of people use, their digital Google Maps instead of print maps. I guess, and we decided that we would toss this to the full commission to what your thoughts are on, do we print them, not print them? Do we recommend printing if we've got the funds, updated map when the funds are available? Just want to know everybody's thoughts on that. And I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Chris, or
Sure, and thank you. And right now, especially if you take on the annual meeting, you do not have, I would say not necessarily, but no, you do not have funding to reprint right now with the things that you have on the table, but it's a question of what you'd recommend going forward. And if there are funds available for a smaller reprint or a larger run, what do you think about that? We hear both things. As I talk to communities, there are some locations that still really like the print maps. They go through a lot of them. Others don't. So it's kind of a question of, is that something that you want to continue providing when funds allow?
Anne?
Thank you, Senator. The print map and the issue of are people using maps rather than Google? I'd say to some degree, these maps also tie us to our interpretive centers. And that was a really specific effort that we made to highlight those interpretive centers. And I think, correct me, Chris, we did add in the 13th interpretive center. So we're up to date already, art-wise and design-wise.
Art-wise, the ones that you have currently still in print that we have available just had the 12. You did have design changes made so that you'd be ready for a reprint if you chose to do it. So the current version does feature all 13 of your interpretive centers on the main side of the map.
So that cost part of this has been done. One of the things that is good about the maps, and I'm old-fashioned, I admit it, but I think one of the things about it is that people take it away with them and they study it and they look at it, and they might never, people who visit the Forest History Center might never have stopped at the Kelly Farm. But now it's on their map and they get a chance, they get exposure through that map to not just the directions, but the entirety of the Great River Road in the state of Minnesota. And so it has that benefit. And I don't want us to think of this just in the context of helping people get from one place to another within the Great River Road. It's just that it's not intended to be simply finding your way on the road. It's meant to highlight all of what you can experience on the Great River Road in Minnesota. Thank you.
I think we would have to make a decision on this today, wouldn't we? Because our next meeting isn't until May, and if we're throwing it out there in April for this annual, 2024, that's not till 20, so we have a little time. I was like, oh no, we need time, money and maps. Is there any, what else, what do the rest of you think on printing maps if the funds are available? Carl?
Yeah, I think maybe we should wait to see if we're hosting this annual meeting. There's a reason they're going to need for that if we do that. So we might need to hold off. But if that's not happening for us, then I think it'd be probably an opportune time.
Senator,
yeah, John.
I was just say, Chris, remind everybody what the cost of a regular printing is.
Thank you.
So historically, that varies quite a bit on what the actual piece is. In 2018, you did a reprint of something that existed in the past. It was slightly different than the format you see now. That was about $5,700 for a reprint of 28,000 pieces with some shipping included. You did a big, large run in 2020 with some special funding. It was about $25,000 for 80,000 pieces, including the first run of shipping. So it varies widely. In the past, years and years ago, they used to be sent out to all of our partners up and down the river, and we would default to sending what people received in the past if we didn't hear back. Now, the past few years, we send them to those that respond only. And so that does impact the number. We're only sending them to the ones that respond. We know that our partners at Explore Minnesota, for example, distribute through their welcome centers. We work with the contact person there. They typically go through about 12,500 at a time that we send out to them. So they're a key partner, interpretive centers and historic sites, CVBs, Some places like Itasca State Park go through a lot of these and can take a lot of them. Others don't at all. So it varies widely, but those are some numbers. So you could survey the sites, see what they would like for the next season and print based on what they say. You could pick a number that the budget allows for and divide backwards based on that. There's more than one way to do this, but Carl is correct in saying that if you take on the annual meeting for 24, there will not be money in your operating budget to print maps. I'm not saying there couldn't be funding somewhere else, maybe that would show up, but it's not in your operating budget to do both things right now.
Carol?
I was just gonna mention that when we did our most recent corridor management plan, we did ask those questions of people traveling the byway. And what we heard was twofold. We had some missing signs. We had quite a few. So the print map was critical if there, because we only signed the route when you turn. So having someone ride shotgun and, you know, kind of follow the map was helpful. Also there, and this may have changed, but there still were places in 2016 where you couldn't get a decent signal. So your mapping, you know, your mapping directional software may not pick up a signal to get you through. And people just said they liked it because that's how they knew about the Great River Road. This was mentioned before they take it, and it inspires a future trip. And that's part of what that collateral material is for, is to increase visitation and then also show people that there's more to do. So revisitation can be spurred by it. If they like one part, they'll come back maybe to check out. And I just want to give that little bit of context from our customers as to why we had in the past or continue in 16, because it also came up then, hey, everyone's got it on the phone. Why do they need
that? Peter.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Housley. One of the things that I noticed about the map is that I couldn't find it. The Upper Mississippi National Wildlife and Fish Refuge starts in Wabasha and continues on down to Rock Island, Illinois. And I can't find it on the map. And there's a office in Winona for it. And it seems to me that if for the next printing, it would be an opportunity to do that crossing of agencies and supporting of each other, as in they're all on the same general mission. So I thought that it would be good if that was tagged on the map.
Thank you, Peter. Any other discussion? All right, so we don't need any motion or anything here. We'll just, discussion's been had and we're going to continue to discuss. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, we're running a little behind. Moving on to public utilities notification, projects near the Great River Road. In your packet, pages 12 to 16 is the Northland Reliability Project. Chris, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. So this is follow-up from your November meeting, and at your November meeting, you approved comments to be submitted that you see on pages 12 and 13 regarding the Northland Reliability Project. So those were submitted, as you see in your packet, and then there was a response. So those were submitted electronically. They do show up on the docket with the Public Utilities Commission. Page 14 is the map that went along with the comments. And then there were responses posted by the power companies and proposers involved. And so an excerpt of that is shown for you on pages 15 and 16. It was a longer response that they made to several different comments, but you see the Minnesota Mississippi River Parkway Commission highlighted in a yellow orangey color in terms of what they had to say about those comments. And then on page 16, they also refer to comments from MnDOT that reference the Great River Road as well. And so basically Great River Energy and Minnesota Power are saying that they will not be doing visual simulations or analysis of undergrounding at this point. So there, as I understand it, there will be opportunities for further comment on this project. We should be notified of that from the Public Utilities Commission docket, and DNR and DOT and others will be involved as well. I know that Natural Resources had comments in this process as well. So I can certainly let you know what else we see coming through in terms of comment opportunities or materials for your review, but basically your comments as approved were submitted and there was a response to them. And John or Grant or others, if you have anything else on that, certainly jump in.
Any comments, John or Ann? Nope.
Just on that one or overall on Chris?
I think we're on that one right now, John, but as you wish.
No, I'll wait till if you want to go through all of them, I'll wait till the end. My comments are more the big picture of answering these kinds of or putting together these kind of letters.
Sounds good. Would you like to go on to Dairyland?
Yes.
Cooperative, okay. And so this is also follow-up from your last meeting, and at that time you designated a subgroup to meet with those project proposers, and that did happen on December 8th. The notes are in your packet, pages 17 and 18, and we did correct the spelling of John's name, just so you know. We submitted that correction to them when they provided us with the notes. But there was a meeting via Zoom, and John was on that meeting. Marnie Karnowski from the Department of Transportation was on that meeting. I was on that meeting, and Kate Carlson, your Bluffs regional member, also was in the email chain for this. So you can see the notes from the meeting here. As you designated at your last meeting, the information shared was basically similar information to your comments on the Northland Reliability Project, that those are kind of key core comments you would want made. And so that meeting did take place. There have been a few emails back and forth since then, but basically what you see in the notes is what happened at that meeting and discussion.
Any questions or discussion on the Dairyland? All right, move on to the Lotus Environmental Project.
Got it. So that's one more report since your last meeting, page 19. So at your last meeting in November, you requested an email response to those project proposers. And so you see what happened as a result of that. I put together a summary for you from all of the emails that went back and forth, not wanting you to have to sort through all of the text of everything, but these are the key points. And so the commission submitted comments via email. You see the main points of response, response back from the MRPC. Also, the proposers, when they were answering about the project going forward, indicated that they had been in coordination with the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe, that this tower would be going up on their land of their jurisdiction, and that they had approved it. And so Sally, in review of this, did request that documentation, which the proposers provided, and that looked to be in order. And I'll invite Sally to jump in on this as well. But that was part of the process. And so the commission also requested information on cost differences of the special tower treatments when you were requesting some of the camouflage tree style towers. And they said that really wasn't an option. The question back was, why? What are the costs, just for further commission understanding? Not that you would be saying this had to happen at this time, but they did provide information on the costs, which you see on page 19. I think that could be helpful for you as you review future projects, that you kind of know what you're asking, at least based on what their response was. I'm not sure if that holds true in every case, but at least you do have some cost comparison to review. Also, the people that provided those responses from Lotus Environmental offered future discussion if you would want to meet with especially that one contact person to talk about what he has been seeing in different projects that are out there, different mitigation treatments, different trends. They did offer to do that with you. So that's a summary. I don't know, and John was involved in those conversations. Again, Sally was as well. So I defer to them if they have more to share. I know this is really quick. It's a lot of content, but basically we just wanted you to have it so that you would know what all the responses have been. And if you as commission members get questions, you have documentation to refer back to.
Thank you, Chris. I don't know if you ever sleep. Oh my goodness. Jeez. Sally or John, did you have anything to add to that?
This is Sally. I think one of the things that concerns me, because I happen to live within the jurisdictional boundaries of the Leech Lake Band of Ojibways Reservation, and it always seems to me that when projects are coming through the tribal lands, that, and the answer is, you know, let's do something solid and for the future, protecting and preserving, that it always seems to be that the recommendation is coming from the companies that are coming through. It's always, let's do the least cost effective thing that's possible, and let's just get through the tribal lands. So that's why I thought, you know, well, I need to make sure that the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe was definitely asked and did do due diligence in making their approval of the project. That's my point of view, my personal point, because I live there. Miigwech. By the way, which is thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Any other discussion or questions on that project?
Now, Senator, and this will lead to Carol's comments, I think, in the next next thing is that, you know, overall, we have almost no carrots or sticks as an organization. It was, you know, when I was superintendent of the Mississippi National River and Recreation Area, we had the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area rules, state rules that we could use that the DNR enforced to, you know, help guide development throughout the 72-mile corridor of the Twin Cities. The original intention of this National Scenic Byway was that we would protect scenic views and historic and cultural resources along the way, natural resources. But it's hard for us to do that because, like I said, we're not a regulatory agency. We don't want to be. But we want to make people aware of the values of this National Scenic Byway, this all-American road, but we don't have any enforcement or even moral suasion, it seems. And so I don't feel people really listen to us, or they don't feel they have to. But so that's where we really depend on MnDOT and DNR and others to carry our flag for us. So whenever they can do that, we really appreciate it. But one of the things that originally happened with the designation of the Great River Road was in some states they set aside easements, scenic easements, and we really haven't thought about those for a while. So Carol did some looking into that. So I'm curious to see what Carol has on scenic easements.
First, I don't know if Peter, you had a question previously before the scenic easement. No? Okay. Do you want to wait till Carol's done? Okay, go ahead, Carol.
You, Chris, can I share my screen?
Yeah, I can see you, Carol.
No, but
Oh, can you share your screen? I am not sure that you can, Megan, and if you can hear us, could you give Carol that authority? Or can I? Maybe I can. We're working on that, Carol. Thank you.
I can just try it too. How's that? I'll just try this and see if it works. Can you guys see that?
No.
Nope.
Oh, you know why? Because I didn't share.
Oh, now we can.
There we go.
It's on. It's on.
Okay. Super. So, you know, we too are at MnDOT, we're asking where is the requirements for scenic byway designation. We've been asking, you know, how many intrusions can occur within scenic byway, for which scenic is one of the intrinsic resources that was designated the all-American road. What is the legislative statutory ability for us to protect that, because it is written more as aspirational. The one element that scenic byways does include that does affect eligibility is outdoor advertising, off-premise outdoor advertising, otherwise known as billboards. So that is something that actually through local ordinances as part of being a byway, local units of government support the concepts of supporting the byway and its in transit resource. So what I'm showing you now though are the scenic areas and scenic easements that MnDOT mapped a few years ago, because when the slip and sand operations and then CapEx were coming through, we recognized that we needed to do more. That was after those events because they were on paper. And you can see right now this app is not shared with the public. So this is a proprietary information that hasn't been through the process to allow us to have it publicly available, but it is available and we did that on purpose. So you can see that the scenic areas are throughout the state. Those are actually legislative scenic areas. So they're written by the legislature to protect certain scenic qualities. The scenic easements are purchased with typically federal transportation dollars. And so, like I can make anyone sick here. But I just want to share very briefly what this all looks like. And sometimes I don't know if I'll be able to capture all of this, but basically you can see that they have been purchased along highways. So it was intended as a transportation investment to safeguard those values of specific areas of the state with national support. So that's one, and you can see, but this here is a scenic area. Oh, so I spoke too soon. This is the one that would have legislative directive as far as protection. We do have the paper copies for these two. I can show you an example. Let's make this a little bigger, and then I'm gonna just this is actually a report that we'll be looking at from 1960 that talks about the values of scenic easements but here's one for golf club. So Sally, right in your area. And you can see the aerial. And that it's adjacent to the lake. This is the Great River Road. This is exactly meets and bounds that currently. And here is the text. Great. So it describes, in property terms where we're talking about, and then it describes why we're doing this. So it's maybe use the scenic area, maybe use for the purposes they were raising for those purposes, not inconsistent with the instructions set out in this order. No dumping of ashes, trash, and rubbish, solids, garbage.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And then no tree shrubs shall be destroyed and moved. But no new installations of any publicly or privately owned utility lines shall be made.
Carol?
Yep.
Is there any way to fix your audio a little bit? It's just a little muffled. I don't know. Is it just me that's getting that?
Oh, thank you.
I can't hear either.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just a little muffly.
Yep. Agreed.
Carol, I think the bottom line here is, whether it's an area or a federally purchased easement, is there a way for us to take advantage of these in our comment letters? You're nodding yes. I think it'd be. I mean, it's a tool in the toolbox. I don't think we've been using that we could maybe use to effect. Maybe Peter, you had a comment. I think maybe you were going to comment on that.
Sure, but you finish up, John.
No, I was done. I mean, Carol, it was just really hard. At times we could hear you, but at times we couldn't.
Okay, sorry about that. So go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, it's still muffly.
Mhm.
She says, okay.
Should I go ahead, Chair Housley?
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Okay, so my comment is that states, Minnesota in particular, has a requirement that a certain amount of the energy will be met by renewables. And in the effort to do that, there has been more and more closings of coal-fired plants, and they have been replaced by wind energy. And the number of centers of power generation in the state was maybe in the 20s, maybe 25 total for all of the energy plants. Now that's going to be in the hundreds, because all the solar panels, all of the things, all require transmission lines to get their power to the source, which is where it's used the most, which is the large cities. And in the scenic discussion we had in October, November with other states, there was a finding that there is more and more of these coming through, but they are not being done as a whole piece. They're being done as pick this one, pick this one, pick this one. And it reminds me a lot of the cell towers, which are not that intrusive, relatively speaking, that went up in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yes.
And this, I think this is coming down the pike. I don't think that there's any way that this is not coming down the pike. And it seems to me that there has to be some kind of response needs to be prepared, so that it's not a case by case basis, because I think it's very easy to wear down one case or this case or that case, as opposed to what is happening to the Great River Road, the granddaddy of scenic byways, along with, the Appalachian Trail. And, what we're heading for is basically a turnpike in New Jersey with all of that's being planned. I mean, if you look at what the energy companies have shown is what's being planned, the transmission is astonishingly different than what it has been for the last 60, 70 years. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. Anne?
Thank you, Senator. I am recalling way back 20 some years ago, when I was working up in Grand Rapids, and I had an arts organization as a client who wanted to put a sign on a scenic byway, a directional sign to their entrance. And the highway people, and I think they were county at that point, said, this is a scenic byway, therefore we cannot do such and such. We have to be within certain guidelines for the city or for the signage, and we cannot put what they wanted to put was something very large about their facility, and they couldn't. And I'm hearkening back to that bygone day in my life and thinking, where did that go? Where was that in existence? And for scenic byways, and does our scenic byway status give us some kind of protection or some kind of guideline for those who are, because it seems to used to have been there. I don't know where it went. Thanks.
I'll jump in, and Carol and Peter, if you can help me, I'm remembering that is that under the billboard situation. My terminology is going to escape me on what rules and regs there are along byways, and they related to like the large outdoor advertising types of things, but not necessarily to public utilities. Carol, can you help me on that one?
Yeah, sorry. And I think I got my mic things figured out. Sorry.
Yeah.
Switching from being in the office and being in my attic. I sometimes fail to turn it back on the proper one. So actually that's under Title 23. And so on the federal level, Title 23 offers the following guidance regarding scenic areas. And again, to John's point, I think that we do need to utilize the data that we have in our utilities area within land management. They're advising us to become more be able to use these specific legal standings. So Title 23 says that no new utility installations, including those needed for highway purposes, such as for highway lighting or to serve way stations, rest areas, or recreation areas, are not permitted on the highway right-of-way or other lands which are acquired or improved with federal aid or direct federal highway funds and are located within or adjacent to areas of scenic enhancement and natural beauty. It goes on to say that new underground or aerial installations may be permitted only when they do not require extensive removal or alteration of trees or terrain features visible to the highway user or impair the aesthetic quality of the lands being traversed. Aerial installations may only be permitted when other locations are not available or unusually difficult and costly, or are less desirable from a standpoint of aesthetic quality. Number 2, placement underground is not technically feasible or is unreasonably costly. So reasonable, is something that's subjective. And then the proposed installation will be made at a location and will employ suitable designs and materials which give the greatest weight to the aesthetic qualities of the area being traversed. Suitable designs include, but are not limited to, self-supporting armless single pole construction with vertical configuration of conductors and cables. So there is federal, to answer your question, Senator, there is federal law that does also describe protections from utilities or for scenic areas. And so, as I showed in the map, there's a lot that goes along, particularly the southeast section of the Great River Road, but I, shared one up in Ball Club too. So we can, and we are committed to utilizing these in our analysis, our mapping of it. We're working to see if we can get it made publicly available. And as an alternative, if we could provide it to the PUC so that they can then provide it to the applicants. So the applicants show not only where the scenic areas and easements are, but also the scenic byway alignments, so that we as agencies, but also the general public, can see it in relationship to each other. We still have to do all of that, though.
Senator, if I might, just the I don't know the law here at all. I'm not a lawyer, but it seemed to me if they were purchased with federal dollars, it's public information. It should be public information, and it would really be advantage of both to the public and the PUC and the applicant that they could see this information from the get-go rather than having it behind some kind of closed doors. Again, we're not trying to be a regulatory agency. We don't want to get in the regulatory business, but we do want to let them know that if it's reasonably possible to protect the scenic values of our byway, they should. And there's a reason to. But if MnDOT is going to do so, then we could just sign on to MnDOT's, as a commission, we could sign on to MnDOT's comments, right?
You can, but it may be, you definitely can. And, we have supported the DNR's comments on these issues as well over time, and even National Park Service, on other issues as far as land management that impact the intrinsic qualities. So definitely, I think our partner agencies do support each other. We are working, though, to make this publicly available to your point. I don't know if it would be helpful to all of the agencies to maybe have the commission note their support of making this available at its earliest convenience. Because I've suggested it be made more available earlier, years ago. So it might help to influence our prioritization of it. If we understand that there's broader use of the information, because these are very time-sensitive decisions that need to be made.
Well, can I make a motion to that effect? It would, and I guess I'd make a motion, and then it'd be interested in discussion that the Parkway Commission do ask that this information on easements be made publicly available as soon as possible, as soon as it's reasonable. I guess someone's got to second that. And then have a discussion of whether we want to do it or not.
Well, I'll second it, John, but I have something that I'd like to add and see if it fits with that. And that is, when you say make it available, to whom are we making it available? Are we making it available to the Public Utilities Commissions? Are we making it available, or pardon me, what is it?
Publicly available.
Publicly available. But it seems to me, in a more direct and strategic way, that we might communicate these things to the regulatory bodies who are always consulted early on when these projects are being conceived of in the first place. And if they were more aware of these pieces of, the nature of these scenic byways and these scenic overlooks early on, when a cell tower project comes up and comes to them and says, we want to do this, what are the parameters? This is one of the parameters that they include on their list. So making it available just to the public, I think, dilutes it, and making it a strategic availability to the points of information that these people seek out would be a more effective way to do that.
If I may, just process-wise, is that a step 1, step 2, that it needs to be publicly available and accessible before you can take the step of sharing it with specific audiences?
Yeah, I'm going to say that's up to our legal counsel to actually determine. If for instance, I mean, I think from a sense of urgency, we need to be applying this to our analysis, MnDOT does. And then we now better understand Title 23, et cetera, and that implication. We were looking for where in the federal law does it say, are there protections or not? So now we have found that. But so we're going to first commit to using it in our analysis. We'd like to then work with the folks who make these decisions that we could make it available to the PUC so that it is then, I don't know, and it's up to the PUC to decide if it's a requirement or a request to have it incorporated into the application documentation. But that would be very expeditious for everybody in the public and the agencies.
Well, I'm willing to withdraw that motion, just given time right now. But I think it's maybe we can bring it up at the next commission meeting with a little more
and we probably want to have Marnie as a part of this conversation.
Yeah,
as well.
so let's hold that off on that and think about it before the next commission. But as long as you're doing it internally at MnDOT and working with PUC and others to do it, I think that's the first step.
All right. Any other questions or discussion around the easement?
I just want to say thank you to Carol for taking the time to. This is really important information that we haven't looked at for a long time. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right. Are there any other projects that members are aware of, or any comments about the content and the process of that we've been using for these reviews? Okay, and we're moving on. I'm going to let you go with this, Chris, the letter of support request from Brainerd.
Of course. Thank you, Chair Housley. And this is something that you referenced earlier in the meeting about authorizing the chair and vice chair to act on this type of letter in the future. But you did have this request come in, and so we added it to your agenda for today. Once again, this was a project that you approved last November for a letter of support related to transportation alternatives funding. It is the City of Brainerd Trunk Highway 210 Lum Park Pedestrian Bridge Project. It's in Carl's area. You received a request from the city very recently that they are now seeking other sources of funding. You'll see a little information on page 20, which is the final page of your packet, I will mention. And they are now looking to submit a request for funding to the LCCMR. They are also looking at some other sources, including bonding, though it is not currently in the governor's recommendation. They would like a letter of support for their LCCMR request and or a general letter of support. Once again, this is a project that you approved for support at your November meeting, just that different funding source or two.
Anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make that, Carl.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Did they send any maps with this when they requested, Chris, the first time? What I'm curious about, it says connecting with the Highway 25, the new bridge trail. And I'm just wondering where that trail, what it connects.
I can say that I didn't get a map this time. This was a follow-up to that November request. I'm not sure if there were maps, Carol or Peter, with the transportation alternatives letters of intent. I have not seen their full application for transportation alternatives funding, Carl. So
Okay.
I don't, but I could certainly go back to Jesse for a map if you would like to see one.
I'm just curious, I drove over the bridge today. I just don't know where that trail goes. Oh, I'm glad they're connecting to Lum Park. It's great. And I don't know, this potentially was one of the routes for the connecting the Cuyuna Rec area. Talked about years ago was kind of going over this area. So that's what I was curious if it was part of that or not.
I am happy to make that request and that be sent to you with a copy back to me. If you would want the commission to go forward with their approval regardless, you could do that with the request that you receive the follow-up information, or if you want to hold it until you see that. Chair Housley, I'm not sure how you'd like to do that.
I think if we approve that back in November, that's fine still. So.
Okay.
Carl, did your iPad die?
Yeah, I'm running off a hot spot for my phone and that died. So.
I was like, I don't see him in the picture talking. Where is he?
Yeah.
Being cut off.
I'm here.
Okay. Any other discussion on that motion?
That just hit our paper this morning, by the way, so.
Timely.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed, nay. All right. Motion passes. On to commission member updates. Do any of the members have any updates they wanted to share? Everybody's getting hungry. It's Friday at 4:20. Okay, no one wants to share any. Okay, that's good. Any other business? That's how fast I move, Chris.
That's good.
When you get to the end of the meeting.
Yep.
That works.
Any other business? All right. Our next meeting is going to be, our next meeting will be May 30th, 2 to 4:30. It's going to be at the Capitol, room 123, and we'll have a Zoom link. And in the meantime, Chris will keep us posted on what the executive committee and that planning committee for the annual meeting for 2024 is doing. I guess that's it. So we are 5 minutes ahead of schedule. So we are adjourning at 4:25. Thank you. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good
Thank you, Chair.
Thank
You too. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
We probably lost.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because like I said, I think that was really, to me, I was gonna get graded bigger.
Start thinking about just looking at,
Thanks so much, Yuki. Yes, thanks.
Half of an hour basically. Yeah. But we have one person.